way back in 4th grade, you guys, I think it was 4th grade, you learned how to do long division. And you didn't like it then either, okay? Let me remind you of what you did back in 4th grade, okay? Because it's the same steps on this other level here. So like back in 4th grade, you would have had a problem something like this, okay? And you had steps here. And the first step was to divide, which is 4 goes into 3. No, does 4 go into 37? Yeah. And we get as close to 37 as we could, which would have been 9, okay? The next step was to multiply. 9 times 4 is 36, and you put it right here. You guys remember the next step? You haven't had to do it in a long time, so it's okay if you don't remember. What do we do next? Subtract, right? And then the last step is to bring down if there's anything to bring down, and then you start over again. But if there's nothing left to bring down and there's a number left there, that's just your remainder. Remember? Okay? So we're doing the same exact steps, just with polynomials. Okay? So we're going to set this up just like you would any other division. I'm going to have x plus 4 on the outside. That's called our divisor. Okay? And then what goes inside is called your dividend. Okay? And then when we get our answer, it's called a quotient. So the first step is to divide. Okay? And here, the hardest part for students is knowing how to start it. And I'm going to keep reminding you of this every time. You start with the first term of each of your polynomials. That's what we look at first. Okay? And you ask yourself, x squared divided by x is what? Or an easier way is, what can I multiply x by to get x squared? X, right? X times x would be x squared. Now, where I place that x is important. I find the term that matches it, meaning the other x at first. I wouldn't put it with the x squared or with the constant. I'm going to put it right there. Okay? So how did I get x? In case you missed it, what times x gives me x squared? That's like your division step. Remember, the next step is to multiply. Now, instead of just multiplying two numbers together, we're multiplying a monomial times a binomial. I'm doing x times x plus 4. Just like up here, I did 9 times 4. And you can go off to the side if you need to, or not. It's up to you. But you guys would just distribute. Okay? So x times x is x squared. And x times 4 is positive 4x. So just the same thing we would have gotten if we'd done it off to the side. So we did the d step and the m step. The next step is to subtract. Listen, I want to subtract the whole thing. We're subtracting the whole thing. So what happens when you put a negative in front of a polynomial? You give it to both of them, which basically just changes both signs. So the subtraction step is change both sides. So anything that was positive becomes negative. Anything that was negative becomes positive. And if we did it right, these should always cancel. Okay, they should always be one's a positive and one's a negative. And then we have negative 5x plus negative 4x is negative 9x. Notice all my x's are lined up in a row. That should happen when we're doing this right. So we did the subtraction. The next step is to bring down. We didn't have anything to bring down in the last one. We were just done. But here we do. We're going to bring down the negative 36. And we start over. So this is the hardest part. What do I do here? You're always going to use that x, whatever that first term is, and now we have a new first term. So before we did how many times does x go into x squared? Now we're doing how many times does x go into negative 9x. Another way of asking yourself that is, what times x gives you negative 9x? X times what is what? That is negative 9. And if you're doing it right, and we are, your terms should be lining up nicely. If you look, all my constants are lined up. I won't have like a 9x over a 36. So if you are neat, you can kind of see if you're making a mistake. Okay, so now I just did negative 9. You guys just told me x times negative 9 is negative 9x. That's right. So now I'm doing the multiplication step. Now it's just the negative 9 times the x plus 4. I would get negative 9x minus 36. Right? whether you write it off to the side or you just do it here, negative 9 times x is negative 9x. Negative 9 times 4 is negative 36, right? And we're subtracting, guys. The whole thing gets subtracted. When we do the whole thing subtraction, it just changes the signs of both terms. Anything that was positive becomes negative. Anything that was negative becomes positive. If we did it right, and we did, these two should always cancel. And negative 36 plus 36 is 0, so we have a remainder of 0. Our quotient, or our answer, is x minus 9. Okay? Lots of places we could mess up there and make mistakes. Neatness matters. Doing the same steps over and over, you have to practice it. So look at this next one. And I wrote it a different way. This is multiplication, but with an exponent of a negative 1. Guys, that means it goes into the denominator. You don't need to write this if you don't want to, but this is the same as saying d squared plus 4d plus 3 over d plus 1, which is just division. So when you see that, that's just division. So it's d plus 1 on the outside. That's my divisor. My dividend goes inside. How do I start first terms? Yeah. It does, but the negative exponent puts it in the denominator, which then changes it to division. Okay. It's just, this book is the only time I've ever seen it written like that, but since it's there, you know, I wanted to just kind of cover it. So they're all division. It's all the same type of problem. They just look a little different. Okay, so what times d gives me d squared? D. Think about where you're going to put it. It matters. You want to start right away lining things up perfectly. Okay? So you don't put it above the d squared, you don't put it above the 3. Okay? Now's the multiplication step. You can go off to the side and do it, or not. D times d, right? D times d is d squared, and d times 1 is 1d, or just d, right? So I just did this, and I put it right there. We then have So we have the subtraction step. Remember, the subtraction step simply means change both signs. Whatever they are currently, we change them. So they're both positive right now. They were. I changed them to negative. Okay? And if I did it right, these should cancel. And then here I have 4d plus negative 1d. So 4d plus negative 1d is 3d. Bring down the plus 3. Sign in front of it goes with it. And then we start over. And again, this is where students get stuck. What times, it's always this guy. This is the same. You always use this, but we just have a new first term here. So it was these two in the beginning, and now it's these two. Okay? What times d gives you 3d? 3. Positive 3, right? So I'm going to put a plus 3, right? 3 times d is 3d. So again, you can do it off to the side if you want to, if it's confusing to do it here. But all I'm doing is 3 times d is 3d, and 3 times 1 is 3. Change both signs. Huh? Yeah. If we did it right, those guys should cancel. I get a 0 here, nothing to bring down. Final answer is d plus 3, no remainder. So Paris' question was, when I get a remainder of 0, I'm done, nothing left to bring down. Not because of the 0, because there's nothing left to bring down, right? The 3 we already used. There's nothing after the 3. That's how you know you're done. So you could have a remainder, but still nothing to bring down, which I think happens on our last. Yeah, we'll have a remainder on our last one. I have one more to do with it. Okay? So we'll see if I answer that question on this last example. Okay? Last one. Third way you could see it written. Guys, fractions are division. Right, Dylan? Fractions are just division. So this is just, guys, stay with me. Come on. These are important to know how to do. So we start with the first terms of each of our polynomials. Okay. So you ask yourself, what do I multiply x by to get 2x squared?